All right, so this is a suggestion via a donation. The name of the video is "Should Dinosaurs Be Unbanned?" Featuring Casually Explained. Really quickly, no. Absolutely not. Dinosaurs should stay where they are. They should stay vaulted. I don't think that they should ever be unvaulted. I think that they would absolutely, like, almost instantly decimate every single thing that we have come to love. I guess depending on which dinosaurs actually get unvaulted and put back into the overall meta. Also would depend on the server that they're being introduced to also, guys. But honestly, we've pretty much populated most of the existing servers. So by introducing like another update where they're giving us like this, like a gigantic amount of new playable characters again, I definitely am not interested in any of that. Personally, that sounds terrible. Think about the amount of people that would just instantly stop maining as humans and just start maining as dinosaurs. We don't need dinosaurs. We got rid of them already. I'm sorry, we have moved on. Leave these absolute atrocities, walking atrocities, vaulted, guys. All right? My personal opinion. Let's get it.
This episode was sponsored by Skillshare.
Like very well, no, not too early. That 90s early, but like at least early 2000s.
One of the most controversial balance updates the devs have ever introduced was patch 1.3.1, the update which banned and nerfed the vast majority of dinosaurs, marine reptiles, and pterosaurs.
Okay.
And so it should come as no surprise that one of the requests that the devs get the most is to reintroduce dinosaurs back into the game.
No.
The devs have never unbanned any classes before. But what would the meta look like if the devs actually obliged and allowed players to spawn as dinosaurs again? Well, to answer that question, we first need to understand why dinosaurs were banned in the first place. And believe it or not, I was actually given the opportunity to ask one of the devs this very question.
Let's go.
So a lot of people have been wondering, why were the dinosaurs banned?
I get this question a lot because the dinosaur class was one of the most popular in the history of the game, and we definitely got a lot of pushback when you released the first extinction pack. But to be honest, the meta was just getting stale, especially with players opting to play larger and larger land carnivores like the T-Rex. Like one balance update, we tried to buff herbivores by putting 2 additional horns on the Uniceratops, but of course the T-Rex players just spec'd into higher attack. Then one time we even tried to nerf the rage ability of the T-Rex players by increasing the frequency they want to engage in sexual behavior, but then players thought it would be funny to shorten their arms. So eventually we figured it's not worth dealing with all these complications and we should just go for the hard reset, lower the oxygen levels to limit the size wars of different classes, and encourage more nuanced skill trees.
Okay.
And while we are seriously considering a dinosaur remaster due to popular demand, to be honest, even now, if you look at most character models, they're just shrunk down, reskinned dinosaurs we put fur on so you couldn't tell.
Right.
Thanks so much. I really appreciate you taking the time to comment on this matter. Okay, so what would it look like if dinosaurs were unbanned? First, let's talk about dinosaurs in general. The dinosaur build's main advantage is its massive size. At fully grown, the only things that could take it down were other giant dinosaurs and potentially pack hunting builds. While size is an advantage on defense, it can be a challenge for overall survivability. Dinosaurs require a massive amount of food, potentially more than the current game could provide. And so if the devs were to unban dinosaurs, they'd likely also need to buff the spawn rates of pretty much everything.
Everything, yeah.
Your average dinosaur build also tends to be pretty modest when it comes to speed and intelligence. Having speed comparable to an elephant.
Hey guys, I also think that we probably also would get larger if that was the case, because for these dinosaurs to exist in the size that they did, at least, yeah, he's right. The oxygen would have to be increased, and that in return would then like induce a lot of plant life, a lot of other animal life, right? But we ourselves would most likely have to adapt to that gigantic amount of oxygen. I think our planet would basically almost all turn green for the most part again. Like everywhere would be kind of green.
And intelligence comparable to crocodiles. This means that most of the current top tiers will outspeed and outsmart them on a regular basis.
Yoink.
But this isn't the case for all dinosaurs, so let's get into the specifics now. Let's start with the herbivores. So I don't think hadrosaurs would be very viable at all, seeing as they have no good defensive abilities to protect themselves with. Their best trait is that they can communicate effectively and keep watch over each other. But the best hunters today rely on stealth, a strategy specifically meant to get around this problem. Hadrosaurs would be great at spotting tall carnivore players from far away, but not stealthy builds that stay low to the ground and move through the bush.
Yeah,
now you might be thinking, oh, that's no problem. The herbivores could just outrun them. But large herbivores had much lower mobility than today's top predator builds. They'd be most comparable to an elephant, like I said before. But where elephants lack in mobility, they make up for with intelligence. You can't say the same for dinosaurs. But not all herbivores would be in such a bad position. Hadrosaurs lack any form of weaponry, but other herbivores are much more well-armed. Triceratops is perhaps the most well-known armed herbivore, and it's easy to see why. At full speed, a Triceratops could one-shot even the tankiest of opponents. But with that said, the carnivore player base has gotten much better at dealing with front-facing weapons like horns and tusks. So Triceratops may find itself struggling to fend off attacks that come from behind or come from multiple angles. Getting behind an opponent has become a staple trick of every carnivore's playbook, especially for canine and feline builds. Sauropods were at an interesting place in the meta back during the Mesozoic, and would definitely still be if they were brought back today. Their late game stats were simply impossible to beat one-on-one. No other land build has ever achieved even close to the same base stat total. Even the top predators of the time barely stood a chance, even in teams.
Like, think about it for a second here, guys. Right? Like, if the lions were to try to attack this animal, right, they would almost have no chance. Like, even multiples. I mean, they could, well, unless they can get its neck down, because they're just going to have to go for the neck, and these animals are so absolutely gigantic that they're just going to keep their neck all the way up in the sky to stay alive, bro. But they will start to do damage in the legs, most likely. So they would have to very specifically damage the legs in a way that it just completely stops the mobility of such a gigantic animal.
But they only reach this potential in the late game and have relatively few defensive options during early and mid game, aside from just relying on high-level teammates. This means that their teammates need to be able to stop an attack before it's too late. Because of their extreme height, predators would just about never be able to sneak up on a sauropod clan in an open field. But approaching using stealth isn't the only way to catch a vigilant opponent off guard. Hiding in trees is another option, one that's employed by some of the most powerful builds of present day. Big cats tend to target the neck of their opponents, and, well, it would be pretty hard to miss. Even the top tier jaguar probably couldn't one-shot a high-level sauropod, but all of the arboreal big cats would definitely be a problem for juveniles. Potentially so problematic that not enough of them would be able to reach the late game to defend the lower-level players. It's hard to say. Overall, they could be completely viable or completely helpless. Not much in between. In my opinion, the herbivore builds best suited to survive in the current meta would be the ones with tail weapons, specifically stegosaurs and ankylosaurs. As previously mentioned, the top predator builds tend to attack from behind, avoiding a face-to-face confrontation, and staying out of range of being hit by counterattacks with horns, tusks, and bites. This strategy works great against the tanky herbivore classes of present day, but an attack from behind would be an awful idea against a build with a club or thagomizer. In addition, the armor on their back would make it much harder for assassin builds like big cats to land their critical strikes. Of all of the herbivores, I find these to be the most likely to become top tier if they were unbanned. Now onto the carnivores. So this might be an unpopular opinion, but I don't think large tyrannosaurs would fare well in the current meta. Tyrannosaurs are min-maxed to optimize for damage, which was great when their goal was to be able to bring down tanks with HP levels as high as the dinosaurs. Right. The only build of present day that this would be important to have against would be the elephant. And while that is important, having only one good matchup is not a top tier strategy. All elephant players would need to do to counter this specific tactic is spec into slightly higher mobility, since the T-Rex's top speed is extremely low compared to builds of present day. Smaller tyrannosaurs like Albertosaurus and Daspletosaurus would still be viable though, since they haven't sacrificed as much mobility yet.
Guys, I get it, but we would still be done. All right, this is why I'm saying we should never unvault these animals, guys. We should not. These should never be unvaulted. 33 miles an hour would be the top speed of a tyrannosaur. Yeah, guys, I'm good. I'm not. I can. Yeah. What the fastest man on Earth runs at what, like 30 something miles an hour, 31, 32, guys. Why would we? No, that is not us.
Yeah, the T-Rex has. Mobility really is the name of the game for predators right now. And it's the reason that I'd put dromaeosaurs like Velociraptor and Deinonychus as the best contenders for being too OP for the current meta. And not just because of their excellent mobility, but also because they really wouldn't need to adjust much from their playstyle in the Cretaceous. Raptor builds in the Cretaceous preyed mostly on small animals like prehistoric mammals, and occasionally banded together to take down midweight and heavyweight builds. This niche is still very much available today, and raptors would have little trouble in combat versus builds like possums, raccoons, and birds. This is the same role that the fox and coyote occupy right now. So the question then becomes, could raptors compete with them? Yes. In one-on-one combat, I do think raptors have the edge.
Right.
While raptors do have lower HP than any canine, they also have much more burst damage potential. Canines use the persistence hunting strategy and need to land several attacks in order to bring down a target. Raptors, on the other hand, deal much higher damage because of their sickle claw that can potentially one-shot an enemy. Both employ team strats, and both have high mobility and intelligence. So all else being equal, the ability for raptors to outdamage the canines would, in my opinion, win them the day. So overall, if individual dinosaur builds were unbanned, the Stegosaurs, Ankylosaurs, and Dromaeosaurs would most likely be top tier, while the others might end up struggling. Dinosaur players would need to learn a lot of new abilities.
Guys, I like this list. I like this tier list here. This makes sense. All the sense in the world. If you notice the animals that have the kind of like weapons in the back, and they're super armored around the top of them, their entire back. Yeah, these animals here absolutely would be S tier here, guys. Even right now, I think they still would dominate the wild. If this existed, we would still have a problem. Even if these didn't, if we just chose these, we never want a Velociraptor to exist again, guys. We just, or any type of raptors, guys, we just can't, under any circumstance, have that being exist on this planet. That would probably be seriously the worst one. I mean, I would have thought the Tyrannosaur would probably be up there, but he's kind of making sense. It would dominate everything. Versus us, I think we would get dominated by all of these animals. And I think these were closer to like cows, guys. But all right.
While the others might end up struggling. Dinosaur players would need to learn a lot of new abilities to be able to contend with how advanced the meta is, especially when it comes to how OP humans are. Luckily, if you're looking to quickly and easily learn new skills, Skillshare has you covered. Skillshare is an
All right, guys. All right, so here's the thing. Overall, final thoughts here. Final thoughts. My mind didn't change. I do think that dinosaurs, just as a whole, are just too OP for us in general. I don't think many animals would be able to even stay alive if they were loose, guys. Again, none of them. We need none of these animals. So let's stop having this conversation about what if dinosaurs exist, because then someone is going to try to do that. I'm sure you can gene map like some type of dinosaur over a chicken. I'm almost positive that can happen, guys. Right? Or some type of snake or something. You could potentially do that. Right, and like specifically scientifically impregnate one of these animals with some type of some DNA found. I'm pretty sure. As a matter of fact, I think that we can probably get mammoths again. I think that would probably be the easiest, because those are still being kind of found en masse in Russia, like instantly frozen, like with fur still on it, where you can easily just pull DNA from it, right? I think that would be a more likely candidate than a Tyrannosaur, guys. I think even if you were to find like an egg, right, I still don't think that you could possibly recreate that, guys, based off of the actual data that's still left in this DNA. Because I mean, maybe you can kind of sequence it and try to match it line for line, but it'll still be messed up, guys. But I do think that if we have a chance of bringing something back, it would probably be a woolly mammoth, because those are not too far gone, guys. Those are not too far gone at all. But all right, listen, let me know your opinion. Should we bring dinosaurs back, guys? I hope that none of you will agree with this, guys, because we shouldn't, right? But either way, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day and enjoy your day thoroughly.